Hi there guys, it's been quite an active weekend of hunting. You can probably hear the pheasants calling behind me. There's loads of them around. Pheasant season's well in play. And I got this one this morning as well as one yesterday with a 410. This one was taken out with the air rifle. It was actually in the compost in the back garden, sitting there quite proudly, and I got it with an air rifle with a Diana 280 carbine, 177 and a Bisley Magnum pellet for those of you who are interested. So it was a good clean shot straight through the head, and it was outright cold. So I thought I'd do a video on how to prepare a pheasant, or my methods I should say, on how I prepare pheasant in the field. There's some really easy ways out there of preparing a pheasant. One of the easiest ways of doing it is just standing on the wings and pulling on the feet. And you just tear the bird in half, and you end up with the breast meat on one side and the leg and part of the back in the other. And if you don't mind the bird in two halves when you prepare it, or you're just after the breast meat, then there really isn't any other easier way of doing it. Just tearing it in half like that is just a great way to prepare the bird. And obviously you end up with some wing meat as well, which is good too. But for me, I usually prepare the bird as a whole. I tend to cook them over a fire when I'm outdoors, and I tend to practice a lot of different techniques in an outdoor setting, because that's where I like to do these things when I'm outdoors. I usually stick roast pheasant over a fire, and then cut the meat off when it's cooked, or just eat straight off the bone. It's a nice way of doing it, and there's generally concern about the meat drying out because you've skinned it or you're cooking it over an open fire. I had one like it yesterday with a friend when we went out hunting, and it was really delicious, and the meat is very moist, very succulent, and it's a great way of doing it if you are out, and you can mix it with edibles and and rice and do various things with it outdoors, and it is really good. That's just my method of preparing pheasant. I do it as a whole, and yeah, and I'll show you how I do it now. So first things first on the bird. This one here's still got a bit of rigor mortis. It's a nice big bird actually, a bit stiff, but yeah, it's a good bird, good male, nice and big, which is what we want really, more for the eating. So first of all, I tend to just skin the bird as opposed to pluck it, and you can do that just by pulling on the feathers, and the skin will just begin to come off and reveal the meat underneath, because the skin is very fragile on pheasants. You can see it's just coming off really easily, no need to make a mess. You can see the meat there, very easy to see. Off the back as well, and don't worry about any moss or dirt on the ground. I often just wash them in a river before I cook them, or if you're going to take them home, you'll wash them again, so it really isn't a big deal or nothing to worry about. You can see very easy to remove all the skin and feathers. You just a simple job of pulling, and you'll see the meat start to reveal itself under the skin, and it comes off very easily. So you're left with some of the tougher feathers now, and sometimes I use a knife to assist me in this. So with the tail, there's usually a bit of meat attached to it. You can just take your knife and pop it through. And do be careful with your blade around that area, because the abdomen is there, and if there's some poo coming out, you don't really want to get that on your blade. So that's why it's a good idea to just bend it up away from the abdomen and chop through. So with these feathers on the wing there, if you try and pull them all at once, they're not going to come out. If you pull a few at a time, they come out very easily. It's a bit of a bleak day today actually. I hope the lighting's alright on this, but I'm sure I'll find out when I get home. And again, just break that. Usually give it a twist. You can zip your knife through. Okay, so the bird's almost there, but I'm going to use my knife to just assist me. And I always quite like to use batoning as a technique when dressing anything, just because I find it gives me a bit more control. So I'm going to remove the head. So we're almost there with this bird. We've cut the head off, we've cut the feet off, the wings are tidy, all the feathers are gone, and we've got plenty of meat there to eat and recover off of the bird. Obviously now we need to gut the bird, and it's quite simple to do that. I usually push the legs apart, just like that. And you can see where the breast ends, because it's quite clear. You can see a line all the way up there. I usually just run my knife down that line. Just like that. And then we can get our fingers in and get the guts out. Just generally we're able to just pull it all out. Just in one hit. I'm going to leave that there because we're going to use some of that in a second. So these are the guts, you don't want those, the flies can have those. So that's the majority of the bird cleaned up, and there's a few things I've kept there. I just pulled the guts out, cleaned around the abdomen, and obviously I'll wash this even further. And the preparation may go on a bit more for you if you want it to. You might want to cut the meat off or cook it, and then cut the meat off and put it on a dish and put it with something else. There's a number of things you can do with it, and it doesn't obviously end here. This is just dressing the bird ready for the next step. So we've got the guts out, I've left the heart in, all the meat is right there. We've got the liver here. It's always good to have a look at the liver, it tells you a lot about the animal. That's quite a healthy liver. I'm going to put that back in because that's, you know, how I'm going to carry it home, obviously. Obviously I've had it on moss, and there are flies buzzing around everywhere, so you want to give it a wash. But another part of the bird you might want to use is the gizzard. And the gizzard's going to be full of grit and various other things that you want to clean out. So I tend to cut the gizzard open. And then pull the gizzard in half like that. It's going to be full of horrible stuff. But what you can do once you've got it open like that is just tear off this part like you do with wood pigeon. It holds all the grit, and then you're left with the muscle on the outside that obviously constricts the sac, and that's going to need to be cleaned off as well. So now we've got the bird prepared, everything externally and internally is right here in front of me, and it's what I want to eat. I may pick around it a bit more, like I may clean up around the neck and around the crop of the bird, around the bum of the bird, you know, tidy up a bit before I wash it, just make sure that there's no bits and bobs hanging around that I don't want. And then I'll wash it in a river, or I'll wash it in the sink at home and clean it up, and then it can be put in the freezer or stored. You can do whatever you want with it from after that point. It really is, you know, just meat, and you can use it how you want it. I had some yesterday over the campfire, just like this, a stick straight through, and rotated it every 15 minutes. Me and a friend of mine went out shooting, you know, and got some pheasants, and it was great just to have them over a campfire. They don't dry out at all. Even with the skin off, you know, roasted slowly, they really are quite succulent and pretty delicious. But I'm going to get this bagged up anyway because the flies are obviously moving in. But this is just my method on preparing a pheasant. I quite like preparing the bird as a whole and keeping the internals that I want to eat. And this will probably go into a curry if I'm honest with you. But thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the vid, and I hope it's useful. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next vid.